close.
Are you?
Thousand, she was surprised.
Oh,
To mitigate that hazard.
I'm gonna go for.
Oh, you, yeah. Oh, didn't mitigate that one either.
You need to grab it.
Oh my God.
Maybe I can get it. There we go.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Got it,
Don't
got
let
it.
go.
Teamwork. There
Excellent.
we go.
That was my cardio for the day. Thank you. May I let people into the waiting room?
Of course. Is this your phone?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Welcome. We're just getting our tech set up on this end. Welcome, welcome on the video. Can you hear our audio?
Yeah, you can hear it.
Thank you, Glenn.
And then, Rick, hey, this is Ben. Can you hear our audio? Just double checking.
Hi, yes, I can hear you.
Oh, success. There you are.
Hi.
And then, do you want me to do?
Looks like some sort of ethereal thing.
I can turn off the background. Do you want me to turn off the blur?
Yeah. There we go.
It's Jennifer.
It's me.
There we go.
All right, we will get started in just a couple minutes. We're waiting on maybe one other person to join us here in the next few.
You got the recording on. And then when it comes to whatever you want to do, your slides, are they down here?
Yeah, they're in the PowerPoint.
Here, okay, so I'll just do. And then with these folks, I'll just do a screen share whenever you want me to.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, should I start with the PowerPoint open?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes, I would. This one.
Perfect.
Mhm.
That's easier to see. I might not even need glasses.
So sure, I'm assuming you work with Eric Whitson,
Yes,
Okay.
he's my operations officer.
operations officer. Okay.
Yes,
I've known Eric for very long.
yes, I know.
yeah.
I know. Me too. I used to work at KCD.
Okay, okay,
I used to work for Homeland Security.
yeah,
Yeah, I
okay,
worked for John.
okay.
Yeah.
Were you there
Way back.
when Phyllis was there?
Yep. she
Phyllis and
hired
Mike
me.
Gordon and,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
the dynamic duo
Yeah.
of emergency management?
Yes. Yes.
Very nice.
Yes. Yes, I was there for coming back.
Yeah.
coming back here.
Okay. I'm gonna let Ben get back here since he's controlling the slides, but then we'll get started. And then whenever the other person gets here, they can join us.
Yeah, I assume my other board member was gonna be here, but I didn't hear that anything different.
Okay, I'll let Matea know really quick that she can just send people in.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Okay,
Then
thank
never
you.
mind. She will just send them in. Excellent. What's your other board member's name?
Joni Landine.
Joni.
So glad you guys could come.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is.
Welcome.
Definitely on our radar.
Here,
All this
feel
stuff
free to
we're
grab
gonna
any
make
chair
we're
you want.
involved in, and Yes.
Oh, yeah, you wanna move?
Yes.
Glad you
Hi.
made it. We were just wondering.
Where do you, I'll just go right there.
I'm
Wherever.
Jim.
Hi,
Joni.
Jim. Nice to
Very nice
meet
to
you.
meet you.
Kathy, I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. Grab your chair.
I'm Joni, and you're Ben.
Yes.
And you're
Sherry.
Sherry. Nice to meet you. I lost your email. I tried calling and I said, where am I going?
Oh, that was you then. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good now.
All right, I'm Jennifer. Nice
Oh,
to
hi,
meet
Jennifer.
you.
Nice to
Jennifer's
meet you
who I've
too.
been in
Thank you.
contact with all this kind of.
Oh, excellent. All right, so we will get started. If anybody else comes in and joins us, they will be welcome to join us. Good morning. I'm Jennifer Marsland. I'm the Emergency Planning Coordinator for the Suquamish Tribe, and I'm currently in the process of updating our hazard mitigation plan, and that's why you're all here. I sent out the agenda, but I'll go through it really quickly. I'll have everybody go through and just say their name and that they're here, and what organization they're from or what their role is. Then we'll go over the plan's development and goals, briefly talk about the hazard identification and vulnerabilities that have been assessed, and then what we're adding to the plan this year. The estimated timeline for the project, identify additional community partners who should be participating in this planning process who either aren't here or have not been considered and would benefit from participating in this. And then the different public outreach and opportunities that we're doing in order to increase engagement within the community and opportunities for different stakeholder engagement. So next slide. If everybody would like to go through and introduce themselves and what agency or organization they're from or how they are participating in the plan, that'd be great. So we'll start with Sherry.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you guys are here. This is really exciting that we were in the midst of looking at updating our mitigation plan pre-pandemic, and we're excited that we can now finally get here to update our plan. And we really look forward to your participation and your input into this plan. I'm Sherry May. I'm the emergency manager for the Suquamish Tribe.
And Jim Billy, Fire Chief with the Paulsville Fire Department. We serve the western portion of the tribal area, so we're just happy to participate with us.
Thank you for coming.
Hi, I'm Kathy Cartwright, and I'm from the IBIC, which is in Indianola.
And I'm with Kathy, and Indianola Beach Improvement Club is the group, and we're together representing that group. And my name is Joni Landine.
Excellent.
And then I'm Ben Jones. I'm the volunteer outreach coordinator for the Suquamish Tribe, and I'm also, I guess, amateur IT in this moment. So if you're on the if you're on the Zoom room, I'll be keeping an eye to make sure that if you have any comments or want to raise your hand, I'll be keeping an eye on you. But just in the meantime, to keep this moving, Rick, then Glenn, do you all want to introduce yourselves real quick?
Sure. My name is Rick LeGrander. I'm the Assistant Chief of Operations for North Kitsap Fire and Rescue, and just starting to learn about this and see whatever we can do to help support the plan from our department's perspective.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay there, Jennifer?
Yes, perfect. Glenn.
My name is Glenn Maxim. I'm the forestry program manager for the Suquamish tribe. So good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Excellent. Thanks everybody for coming and participating and helping us navigate this process. One of the next slide, sorry. So the plan's development and goals. The first plan was developed in 2017 over the course of many months. As of right now, there's not significant amount of changes to this plan. There's obviously the demographics have changed, and we've acquired some different properties, and so our space has grown a little bit. And so we will be providing information about those changes in the draft plan. And along with that, we will be adding cybersecurity, cyber attack information this year, and information about climate change and the additional impacts that have been made known through recent studies since the previous plan. Those are in the progress. The cyber attack and climate change. Those will be developed and submitted to everybody and publicly before the next meeting so that there's opportunity for review, comments, or input from everyone. That should be out in about the next 2 weeks. So look forward to that and hearing back from anybody who has input. Another component is we are in the process of beginning our tsunami inundation evacuation map with Washington State Emergency Management and the United States Geological Survey. So hopefully that, I don't imagine that will take too terribly long, but that is something that will be coming forward and shared as well with everyone. The goals of this plan are obviously to maximize the amount of benefit to the community with the amount of funds that we are able to acquire. We are in the progress of deciding which grants and opportunities will become available to us that we might be able to put forth towards this plan, the outcomes of this plan. And ultimately, we really need more engagement from the community to hear what their needs are and what hazards they see every day in the community that we don't see because we don't drive that way or we don't live in that neighborhood. And so finding that information out from members of the community or the stakeholders and community partners that we have, that information is invaluable to really making this plan more solid and beneficial to everybody involved. So here's a timeline of events. They're wildly out of order. So third one down, that's today. This is the initial planning meeting that has invited community partners and stakeholders in as well. There will be a webinar tonight, in fact, about tsunamis that will provide another opportunity to engage the community and give them a little bit of information about this planning process and ways that they can get involved. We currently are still seeking participation from a tribal member and tribal elders, anybody with disabilities that lives in this community and sees hazards from that perspective. That information is also invaluable. So hopefully through these different engagement opportunities that we have coming, we will find more of those people to participate. There's no planned meetings for May. However, as I stated, we'll be sharing that information about climate change and cyber attacks and seeking input that will go towards the information that is shared in the June meeting. So the first meeting in June will be a workshop to kind of collaborate and work on different ways to increase engagement from the community and just find different ways and unique ways, however, that That would be excellent goal of that workshop.
Mhm.
Sorry. Oh no, go back. Sorry.
How do I go back?
Oh. Hit the back button. Hit the.
Your finger's too quick.
There we
we go.
go.
I know
Amateur
how by
IT,
touching.
indeed. Yeah.
There'll be a community engagement opportunity. I'm looking at perhaps town hall or maybe through one of the different topics that we cover monthly. Like wildfires next month. We have tsunami tonight. Whatever we have on the plate for June, that is also an opportunity that we would love to take in, the opportunity to engage the community further on developing this plan, share information about changes, and provide more information about hazards in this community. The idea is to have a draft of the previous plans and all changes available to everybody by the end of June for review. Because of the pandemic, I think most people experienced delays in some of the plans and projects that they had. And so there were not a lot of opportunities, which also, is due to funding to actively do some of the hazard mitigation that we put forth in the previous plan. And so this is, a lot of those will be carried over into this plan as well. And then submit to Sherry, and by the end of August is the plan. So in theory, this won't take too terribly long. The more engagement, the better, the faster this all comes together, and building those relationships in the meantime with the community and with our partners would be excellent. All right, now. As of right now, we currently have a community survey out there. We've also done some stakeholder survey. There was not a lot of participation in the stakeholder survey, which is totally fair.
You defined stakeholder survey.
So stakeholder survey. So stakeholders are people that have reasons to be invested in the community that don't necessarily live here. So the fire department, they have reasons to be invested in the community. And different businesses, different ways that people collaborate with the community that don't necessarily live here. So we've included businesses, we've included fire, the sheriff's office, other emergency management agencies in the county.
What a PUD.
PUD's been, yes, PUD has been engaged. And there's more engagement that'll be happening with that as well. Water districts and things like that. All of those, everybody who has, those things here certainly play a relevant role in this plan's development and its outcome. We're engaging people through community outreach opportunities. Right, tonight's a webinar, but anytime we have a chance to speak with the community, we'd like to jump on that. We've done vaccine clinics here in the past and provided information at the vaccine clinics while they're drive-through clinics. So while they wait, it's a good opportunity to just talk with people. And it doesn't have to be in a form like this where it's presenting at people. More often than not, conversation is one of the best ways to just hear from people what hazards do they see in their area. Well, there's always a pothole, or their front yard always floods. And that actually provides a great deal of information. So that's my preferred way to talk to people.
Very nice.
And so on the survey, we were collecting a lot of information about hazards, about their level of preparedness, which if you've taken the survey, it's a long survey. But all that information goes towards, helping inform our preparedness outreach information and kind of where people lie with preparedness, as well as, what hazards do they see will have the biggest impact here. And it varies. We all come from different backgrounds and different perspectives and experiences. So, an earthquake to me might not be the same as an earthquake to somebody else. So it's helpful information to get all that from the survey. And it helps drive and identify the different plans and programs we want to implement. to protect the community from the hazards. One of the things that is really important is organizations that would benefit from being a part of this plan or benefit from the plan itself who are not involved, who haven't been reached out to. And of course, we want to make sure that we're serving the entire community with this plan that live here on the reservation. And so anybody or any group, we want, if there's people or groups, please tell us. We would love to, find ways to interact and communicate with each other and engage better. So that would be really helpful information if anybody wants to share that.
So I have a couple, what you
Yeah.
just led to one of the kind of foundational questions I had about this was, does the mitigation plan, I can move around if that's easier.
I'm kind of enjoying having a role.
Does
Just
does
giving
this
other people
mitigation
to go.
plan cover a tribal area, tribal members, a combination of the two? What's the scope of the plan?
Sure. So it encompasses the Port Madison Indian Reservation,
Okay.
which is a checkerboard reservation.
Mhm.
And so it does include tribal membership, but it also includes not tribal members. The Indianola, Poulsbo, and Suquamish communities. We have maps that we can make sure that we share as well that identify those borders. So it's all inclusive to everybody within the Port
Anything
Madison.
within the bounds of the reservation.
Okay,
Thank you.
That answered it very
That
well.
was much clearer.
And can I ask another
Of
kind of
course,
foundational
please do.
question? How does this mitigation hazard plan fit into emergency management planning, bigger picture? Is this a subset of your emergency management plan, or is this your emergency management plan?
This is a subset. So
Subset, okay.
we have a comprehensive emergency management plan, which is
Okay.
also being updated
Okay.
and further developed. But we do have an established plan, and we have annexes that go with those as well.
Okay.
So yes, this is a subset of that plan.
Okay,
It can also be used as a subset to the county's plan
Mhm.
and individual departmental or stakeholder plans.
okay,
So when we go after funding for a mitigation project, this plan can be utilized by them as well,
okay,
because we're within the bounds of the reservation. So if fire district has an idea for a mitigation, a utilities has an idea for a mitigation idea that they need to go forward on, they can utilize our plan to strengthen that process in asking for that, as well as the county's plan. Ours is a this plan will be a lot more in depth because it's a smaller location that we're dealing with. So it'll be really valuable for your information. We go into quite depth on our plan, so you'll see that.
and that led into my next question was the collaboration.
Yes, the
between
collaboration.
the Suquamish mitigation plan, the county's mitigation plan, local community, plans,
Yes.
how those play together.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So they strengthen each other.
The
Yes.
intent
They
is to
don't-
strengthen.
Yeah.
The intent is to
They
strengthen.
will.
Yes.
So they strengthen each other and they, but they do not overlap each other.
Okay,
So our mitigation plan is standalone. It is not part of the county's mitigation plan.
okay,
Yes,
okay.
we're a separate jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So ideally, the intent is that they strengthen each other, of
Yes.
thank you.
course. And then vulnerable populations in the community. So per the census, that we don't have quite the extent of language variances like Seattle has, so many. Spanish is our next most common language here. But that population is still extremely small within the community. We have people with disabilities, both visible and not visible disabilities. But if there's additional populations that you're aware of, or clusters of populations that have vulnerabilities that you're aware of that should be addressed or identified specifically for this plan, we would welcome that information and consider.
Yes. Mhm.
What kinds of information are you looking for from those people?
So It depends.
Yeah, so
Um,
disability, it would be like, in terms of earthquake or tsunami or whatever, and you want to know their concerns about how to survive that sort of thing, or?
Well, so some of the information can go towards, some of the outreach that we do and provide, because some of the mitigation plan is outreach and ensuring that the community is informed and or aware of those hazards that pose risk. I actually spent 4 years total in a wheelchair. And so I have a little bit of experience with that, not quite as much as others. But I didn't know drop, cover, and hold positions for what being in a wheelchair. I actually didn't learn that until I was an adult and I was in a wheelchair as a kid. So one of those things that would have been really helpful information during this quali. So getting that kind of information out is really important. And so knowing what gaps we're missing in providing that information or what specifically we're not seeing because we're not coming from that perspective. So if there's no sidewalk for people to move safely, then, and they are going to need that if they're evacuating or different things like that. As well as for the, like our evacuation plan, for example, people, not everybody has a car. So how are they going to be evacuated, or how are we considering all those things when it comes to these plans that we develop? So that's how we use that.
You said you already had a plan in place in 2017. Do you have, is there a way to see that? Is it online? somewhere?
It is
Susan
online.
put it online for all of us on the board.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's on the- You were out of town that
It's on
week.
the Suquamish Tribal website.
It is on the
Thank you.
Suquamish
You're
Tribal
welcome.
website, and there's a link to it in the brochure that you got. I will make sure you have one before you go.
Oh,
Or-
great.
Great,
Excellent,
thank you very much.
of course.
Yeah, a lot
So
of the stuff we're
there's a
talking about
link
is
to
already done, too.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
the plan on the back will take you to a file on
Okay.
Google that
Oh, yeah,
has
yeah.
our hazard mitigation plan as well as other
Very
public
cool.
documents that are relevant.
I see, I didn't do my homework.
No,
so-
that's totally
She was
fair.
out of town for a couple of our meetings.
No, no, I'm just
I
kidding.
know.
No,
It's
that's,
very informative. It's a really cool plan.
it's very, and here's pieces of it here
Oh,
about the different, our flood events and information about background history of flood events here. And so, yeah,
Great.
of
Sorry
course.
to-
No, you're totally fine. No. Feedback and conversations encouraged. Is there anything, let's see. Yeah, so you can go to the next one. Maybe. you can go to the next slide. Oh, actually, that was the last slide, just kidding.
Oh,
So that was, yeah, that was one of the things that engaging vulnerable populations or people who shouldn't be here. So you mentioned KPUD. Is that like 90s internet sounds?
Yes.
It
it's kind of
was.
that whole millennial.
I love
doesn't know what
it.
is.
That was excellent. Thank you.
I heard that, I was like,
Like-
wow,
Uh-huh.
Brought back a little bit of trauma.
somebody
Um,
has ALS.
So if there are, maybe we've engaged them and, they're not represented here at the moment, but we would love to hear if there's any input for who should be here and who's not here. So to be clear, we've invited North Kitsap Fire and Rescue, Bainbridge Fire, and Poulsbo Fire. And so those are our local, we're engaged with Kitsap County Department of Emergency Management and Bainbridge Island Emergency Management. We have somebody who's representing the Sheriff's Department, Kitsap County Sheriff, who will provide feedback to the plan, and then information from the various different departments within tribal government. So Glenn's here from forestry. We're coordinating with community development. So any of those different organizations, we are actively engaging them. But we would like to hear if there's others that you're aware of, that you live close to, or that you work with that.
I'm thinking schools.
Mhm.
I used to teach. And so, I remember I was at Paulsbo, subbed at Squamish a lot, but Paul's Bowes where I actually taught for a long time. And we had, I think it was Phyllis Mann at the time, long time ago, but she did emergency preparedness for us, and and it was extensive meetings and fascinating things I never even considered or thought about. And suddenly I'm like, oh my gosh, and if this happens, we're in trouble, and oh crap. But so like, you know, as teachers, we had to stay with the kids like until the last kid was picked up. But even if your kids were stranded somewhere, you have to stay with those kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it'd be nice to involve the schools, because I know Suquamish here, and then there's the Tribal Academy, and, you know, so to get some involvement, because, you know, the parents are engaged that way and the students. And, you know, I think that awareness is, and those are the bones of our community. So that's just a thought.
No, appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. And then let's see. So in the brochure, which will also be shared in an email after the meeting, will be a link to our Google Drive, which has the information about the resources that we're using to help develop this plan, the previous mitigation plan for review that already exists there. The different studies and data that we have access to and that's available. It's a lot of information. Some of it's just pictures, so that makes it, you know, simple and easy to look at. But all that information that's helping guide this that can be publicly shared will be publicly shared in that folder.
These meetings.
These
are
meetings.
being recorded, and they will be put in to that drive as well.
Yes. Yeah, so they will, all of that we're trying to be as transparent as possible, but also, you know, help increase that information sharing amongst the
We can
different.
go back and refresh our memories.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I will be doing that. Yeah. So. Sorry, I had a brain freeze for a second. So is there anything that Glenn or Rick has input that they, I can't see that far.
No, nothing from me at this point. Thank you.
All right, excellent. So after this meeting, I'll be putting together the meeting, some of the meeting notes and sharing with everybody the that link to the folder so that everybody has that information. But we look forward to collaborating more extensively over the next coming months, whether that's in meetings like this or, you know, more one-on-one or in groups. That would be ideal. That's what I'd like to see happen.
Do you mind if we linger for a moment longer?
No, I
on
would like
sort of
to.
brainstorming some of the stakeholders that you want to make sure here. So I was just thinking about, like, I don't know, speaking personally,
Yes.
as a renter, I have no incentive to put air conditioning in my house.
That's a very good point.
And then
Okay.
during wildfire season, because I live in the Northwest, there is no AC in my house.
Mhm.
And so then I have a house full of smoke. And I know that's like I don't know if it's like normal in hazard plans to have a renter block or like a renter as a stakeholder, but I'm just thinking about that of like either renter or just like has an old enough house that they maybe don't have AC.
Mhm.
Might be
The majority in the Northwest don't have AC, so.
That's just standard.
right.
It's a new hazard.
Mhm.
We haven't had before. It's
Yeah.
emergencies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Climate.
Mhm.
the
Yes,
climate
It's a new
has,
version of climate that we're not used to.
We're building all of our new homes with air conditioners
Well,
Wonderful.
yeah,
because.
yeah. That's actually the number one as of today, which it changes daily. However many people are participating in that community survey, it changes daily. But as of this morning, the air quality and smoke from wildfire was the number one concern that people had about impacting them in their community. And it was one of the top three that, you know, that they complained or not complained, but that they stated was a concern that they've experienced in the past, which if they've been up here, of course they have. So that's absolutely one of those climate impacts that is having an effect. We've had stagnant air and had that wildfire smoke, which just compounds that problem. So that is absolutely, and renters is good because we do talk a lot about different things you can do to your home
Mhm.
when we address the public. But if you don't own a home,
Mhm.
there's not a lot, and you're bound by those rules of your rental agreements and things like that.
So we can talk to housing development, community housing development organizations and renter companies and talk to them and see if we can push that information to them.
Mhm.
I think that would be-
Yeah,
that's a
property
great
management.
point. Property
Mhm.
management, developers. We've got a lot here that are rental homes and they, but they're private, usually owned. I'm not sure if yours is, but owned and controlled by just the landlord
Mhm.
themselves. So,
Mhm.
but there's organizations, I'm a landlord as well, and I'm belong to an organization that I get my information from and new laws that come up and things like that. So we can push and see and pull information from there. And realty companies are a common one around here. We can look at that as well. That's a good point. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, I agree. See, often missed opportunity to talk to people. No, I really appreciate that one. Based on our last plan, we involve our community health clinic and with engaging with a lot of this information when they have time, because they're very busy right now. But we don't really have other clinics, and we don't have other like the hospitals and stuff like that, which are also busy, but we don't have them engaged in this process at this time. So that would, I can see being
I
a
think that would
benefit.
be great. Yeah, contact the Siskin, what's the hospital's name today?
CHI Franciscan. Yeah.
Today.
Yeah,
it's-
exactly.
I heard that.
St. Michael's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's some other clinics, I
Yeah.
suppose, and because we outsource for a clinic. We are building and it's almost ready to open, but it's a very small clinic with limited resource. So it's not a Jamestown size of a clinic. So, and then we do have, here on the reservation. So we have to outsource and use other clinic medical facilities.
Along that similar line is, we do engage with our human services department, which does a variety of different, they serve a variety of different populations. But we do not have any other groups currently pulled into this process that serve homeless organizations or transient persons organizations. Churches.
Mhm.
I did
What's-
reach out to a couple, but I did not. Oh,
We talked to
They were
the
also
Catholic
busy.
Church here and then the community church.
Yeah.
In Indianola, or
I know that St. Peter's here, and then isn't it
Right.
the,
there's the Living Hope Church in Indianola.
Living
Yeah.
Hope Church. Okay, I
Uh-huh.
wasn't aware of that.
That's some with the free pantry, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Corner of
Nice.
Midway and Division.
and then there's the, it's a congregational church here, and I know they do outreach with meals.
We
think
made
so.
contact with them.
yes.
Is that the one you were talking
Yeah.
about?
Yes, the Catholic Church, I did reach out to the week of Passover / Easter, and so they were quite busy.
Oh,
Yeah.
But they were gonna get back to me as soon as that things had kind of calmed down from that. So, but they've been engaged, but other churches and religious institutions in the community would be great to have. Trying to think.
Churches in Kingston too.
Mhm.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
The surrounding community definitely has an impact on
Right,
the local
right.
community.
So you
as
have people
well.
from all over.
They
It's
would
not
be a
just like.
stakeholder.
Yeah, it's north end of Kitsap,
Well,
pretty much, yeah.
They could be considered as a stakeholder.
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay, good.
So yeah, this
If this
plan,
is-
while it serves our community on the reservation, it definitely
Benefits everybody
it
else.
benefits everybody
Yes.
else in both directions, and the impacts from the surrounding community too play a role here as well. So that's one of those things. It's nice to have that collaboration and work together. It only enhances the benefits.
Mhm.
For the stakeholders in particularly, they can use it as leverage with their mitigation projects.
Yeah.
They input, that they have a stakeholder and submit the information based on our mitigation plan, which is fairly depth. And so I think that it's a great resource for them to utilize to gain those funds for mitigation.
Great.
With the tribe, just help me understand, for some of your collaborative, I get the surrounding community, especially the county. Is there collaboration with the other tribes for support? For like your evacuation plan, would you rely more on a county resource if you're going to evacuate a large section, you need food security and shelter security for those folks? Would it go to the county? Would you look for the county resource, or would you look to an area tribe for support?
Both,
Okay.
and all three,
Okay.
because we would be for emergency response. We would look for certain things from other tribes that just fit better.
Okay.
It works easier. Our law enforcement is one that we frequently do.
Okay.
We call in law enforcement from our neighboring tribes. It's easier.
Sure.
They're working with a lot. It's just they understand the community. So that's a good example of one that we would call in for mutual aid. And same with public health. We've done that a lot recently. But we've also utilized the MRC at the county level for our assisting us with our vaccines and our clinics that we've had for their nurses and doctors to come in. And so typically I work with the state of Washington on resource requests, and I work with the federal government on resource requests. So tribes are very small and we don't typically have much depth for response. And so it's more collaboration and not always necessarily resource because of our minimal capacity. So if they can, they do. And that's region wide within Region 2, Homeland Security Region 2. That's our main focus on working with the other tribal governments. And that's our next step, is gearing towards strengthening that. However that looks for each tribe, which would be individual.
Sure.
Currently, we have a mutual aid agreement, mutual MOU with the region for public health. So, we can call on and activate that mutual aid agreement. But typically I work with the state of Washington for resource requests and the federal government.
I was wondering
Not
about,
usually the county.
I was wondering about transportation, because when I think Bainbridge Island, I'm thinking we have that bridge, and if something happens and that bridge fails, so transportation, I think, Washington or Washington State Transit.
So we're working on a flotilla program to help with that, with the transport of people and goods to us, to them, to collaborate all of that. Bainbridge Island's been working a lot on their flotilla program, and they're working really well on that. And we're going to jump in and help expand that, because we've got obviously a large resource there for flotilla. We've got a huge barge, and we've got other large vessels and that are either equipped for fire and law enforcement. We've got on that side, or we've got private large fishing vessels that we would bring to that table for those things. Yeah.
Fabulous.
So,
Experience running operations on water too.
yeah.
I lived in the South for quite a while, so coordinating with the local jurisdictions surrounding it is hugely important.
Especially evacuations.
Yeah. Well, it feels like you guys are in a unique spot where you have the benefit of being able to work with the county to get resources when they have them, but then also the other avenues to get resources going directly to the federal government,
Yes.
other tribes. It feels like there's a lot of potential there to have more avenues
Mhm.
than even cities would.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because cities need to work underneath the county.
Yeah.
Just a bit of a different structure. We need to leverage.
yes. So another reason why we want to include our stakeholders because of that benefit. We want to benefit them because that just benefits us.
Sure, sure.
You know, I mean, it's a dual, it just makes us all stronger. Because if you're set, you've got your resource, you've got your planning, I don't have to worry about you. And I can push my resources where I need to push them. So just makes everybody
I
stronger.
was curious about, where do you get your funding to support this program? And how can we build it, or what can we do to support that?
So currently, it's a mix of federal grant funding, a mix of hard dollar funding. So with the COVID release of federal funds, we have been able to expand our program. And so we're now working on creating other and finding other sources for that. So it's currently hard dollar funded and then federal government funded.
So when you say hard dollar, is it like from fundraisers kinds of
No,
things?
it's hard dollars from the tribal government
Got it.
and their
Okay.
businesses, yeah.
And then, yeah, if FEMA, if funding comes from FEMA, it's usually a percent share. That, it's required that, not federal funding helps support a certain level of it, especially for mitigation planning.
Mitigation is always 75-25.
Okay.
And then Homeland Security funding is another funding grant source that we use quite often here. Because in emergency management, there's not a lot of funding sources to gain an amount that is this valuable. And that's why we have used the CARES Act funding from COVID to expand and build and strengthen the foundation of the emergency management for the tribe.
To add on to that though, like sort of Sherry was saying, of like wanting to build up, a rising tide raises all boats for like around us. Similarly, of like wanting to use our capacity to build more of like a volunteer base and like skill up people on Port Madison Indian Reservation. Just thinking about how like out in Squim, where they have a very developed emergency management program on like the grassroots level, where they have downs like people in like the Miller Peninsula have a list of whose door they're supposed to knock on, because they're like they're similar to Bainbridge if they're at the end of a road, so if something bad happens, they have their own little circle. And so trying to get our program to like a point which is why we're looking for stakeholders and looking for communities that aren't like already like internal to us, I guess, is to make sure that trying to scale up those communities. So if something does go down, we know who the medical people are, and we know who has the water. And
So relationships.
Yes. It's
that's why we're happy
actually
to have you all here.
the number one thing that helps people survive
Is that
disasters is
relationship.
that relationship. It's not how much money you have, it's who you know.
Oh, yeah.
And the more people, but the more people you know, the more people are actively thinking, hey, I wonder if they're okay. How are we gonna get that? Or we're gonna go together because we live next door and their car's broken. Or your neighbor might have the chainsaw that can cut the tree down and y'all can work
Everybody
together
can
to.
leave, yeah.
So funny, my neighbor is a tree guy. I have that.
Oh, yeah, Keith.
Yeah.
But there's so
yeah.
many opportunities with like that volunteer program and CERT, which we have now, helps expand those capabilities, just even with your own neighborhoods, and developing those plans for your own neighborhoods.
Don't we have that going on? It stopped during COVID. We had a neighborhood.
Map your
planning
neighborhood.
Starting,
Yeah.
and we had captains of the neighborhoods, and they were getting together and getting their plans together, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And so back to square one.
There was like I was trying to track down the Indianola Prepares group, just being like, I want to talk to them, but I
Yeah.
couldn't.
Right.
So if y'all
That's nice.
know, I'd love to.
Oh, we can figure
We
that
can
out.
Yeah,
find
if you want to
that.
sleuth that'd be
Yeah.
helpful.
Did
Yeah,
you talk to Susan? You know Susan, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm sure
Not
she's
about
got
that,
her
but-
finger in that.
yeah,
Mhm.
that'd be fun.
Okay, yeah, Indian Olympic Mariners. We'll
Sorry,
find
Frank.
out.
No,
about that.
please.
We can
But
bring
I'm,
info.
I'm assuming that you have already, like, instead of reinventing the wheel, gone out, like you said, in Swim, they've got the stuff in
Oh, they got it.
place. So you've probably looked already at all the places to see kind of what everybody's doing. And of course, you know.
They do map your neighborhood. It's called Map Your Neighborhood program, and they do CERT. CERT is very strong on the Olympic Peninsula. And it's a it's a lot of, because again, emergency management struggles financially everywhere because there's just not a lot of funding sources for it. It's not, the diamond that sparkles and looks pretty for officials to say, look at what it's not fun to talk about,
Death
earthquake,
and destruction.
death and
That's
destruction. So,
Pardon? No, not today.
no, Thursday.
But you're welcome to join us.
Yes.
Talking about getting people together.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the Olympic Peninsula is a great model for, it's very, very self-reliant. It's a community and a demographic that is also very self-reliant, and they want to be, because that is, Jennifer's right, that is where you're going to gain the most support is your neighbor and yourself, and in communicating, whether you're friends or not with your neighbors, but communicating of what any assistance or support that you may need or assistance that you are able to provide. We see that often in our snowstorms that we've been having the past several years. I'm always so delighted and happy when I hear and see on social media or talking to our officers about, we ran into this and we helped this person, or they just posted that they needed this support and boom, they were right there. And these are community helping community, and that's really where it is. That's the resiliency that you're going to see. It's not from us. We're here to, we're not typically the boots on the ground folks either. We're the ones getting the resources to support them and the systems to support them. But it's really the community helping the community. So
We
I
got a
love
lot of that
that.
in Indian for sure.
Love
Which
that.
is good. It's so great.
Does emergency management, do you have a communication tool for tribal members?
We
Nexus, Nixle, whatever that is.
We use it's called Sun Alert. It's Suquamish Update Now.
Okay.
We have a link on our Suquamish Tribal Government webpage for you to enroll in if you want to. You don't need to be living on the reservation to enroll. We have different sections that you can be in and different notifications that you can be alerted for. So we use that quite often. We put that into place, thankfully, just before COVID.
Yeah.
And it's been invaluable for communicating with our community, and they really enjoy it. And not just our tribal community, but our community at large. So anybody can sign up to it and get those information updates that we send out to that broader community. So
Very good.
we can pinpoint to our tribal membership, to our household, to stakeholders, to, we can pinpoint who that message goes out to.
What's the penetration level in the community? You know what rate you have?
It's
that are signed
big.
up for it? That's awesome.
It's big.
That's really good.
Yes. Not only, it's huge within the tribal members.
Okay.
It's almost every single person, but in our non-tribal membership on the reservation, it's pretty heavy. I'd have to ask our comms team to know exactly what that is, but it's pretty good. And then we've also been pushing the county system as well. We push that system, any system to get information out, especially for disaster response.
And who within the tribe has control over the message? Who
That
gets
is
sent?
Sarah Van Gelder. She's our communications manager. So we craft the messages, and our executive director approves, and it goes. So it's usually really fast, unless it's, usually the executive director only jumps in when it's a more sensitive message. But if we're active emergency management is active, then we just talk to Sarah, we craft the message and it goes.
Yeah, that's what we did
So
for the
it's very
tornado.
fast.
The tornado situation, that's
Yeah,
definitely.
You know, the tornado.
We,
The tornado, I was on the
Yeah.
phone with our comms and unfortunately I was on my way somewhere and I had to stop at my house because I had nowhere to go. And so I was on the phone with comms, push the message, you know,
Yeah.
send the message out and yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no lead time for that, which is nice.
No.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's see, I had something to follow on to that, but I don't know what it is now, so. We do have, what's it called? We have it through FirstNet, is that what it's called?
Our cell carrier.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
cell carrier. And we're building radio capabilities as well, for ham
So
radio.
I saw the blurb for the ham radio.
Yeah.
There's
Learn how to
still
do that.
space if you want.
Oh.
Still space.
Yeah.
So we also, through our grants, we were able to get funding to expand and enhance our ham communication for the entire Kitsap County.
Wow.
So we have a large tower out in Indianola, and we put in a new antenna with a broader range. We put in ham one. Do you know ham? Okay.
No.
Ham one is also, it's the next generation of ham. It's where we can also, if we can communicate via email through ham.
Okay.
That's a ham one
That's
system.
interesting.
Yes, so we've worked with partners, a larger Puget Sound.
And the railroad company, correct?
In
Yeah.
Seattle.
I'm not the ham person. And so we've just been kind of facilitating
Mhm.
for that, but we just had that, we're getting the FAA license. Now we're going through there's a whole process
Not bad.
for the frequencies. So we're
Mhm.
monitoring the frequencies right now and getting that through for the license for that upgrade. But it's really super great for this north end because it wasn't working. Because the other one was on Gold Mountain
Mhm.
and it wasn't working right. So the ham operators in our area are very excited.
Not bad.
Now they have a fully functional and it's upgraded to the next generation with the ham
I mean,
one.
And so we're doing Bainbridge Repairs offered they were doing a ham like technician training
Mhm.
this month and offered us a couple of spots. But part of that was when we sent out the message of, are you interested in coming to a ham training? Several people responded being like, oh, I'm already a ham operator. Sign me up. Can I skip this and just come to the meeting? And we're like, yes, I'll let you know when that meeting is scheduled. So we're at that point. And I think that
There are quite a
hopefully,
few enthusiasts.
Mhm.
and my hope is that we can get a bit of a club going because I feel like
Nice.
that's like it's a good
It's
skill
definitely a good part of
set.
the grassroots
Mhm.
response. Yeah.
When we need it,
Mhm.
they're the heroes.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
What is our homework, Jennifer? Sorry.
So, homework
derailed.
is to ensure that there's any files that are necessary to be into that Google Drive. I see that there's probably a couple things that should be in there that are missing from that Google folder. So those will be added immediately after the meeting. There will be, within the next couple of weeks, you should be seeing that climate change information to review, as well as cyber attack information to review, to be added into the draft plan. And once that is done, it'll be sent out. And then to prepare for the next meeting in June, there'll be, I'm hoping that it'll be like a workshop so that we'll be able to discuss in different ways, different engagement and collaboration opportunities, and find some really helpful information from that. So if you think of anything in the meantime, that would be relevant to that or to any of the things that we've
Oh,
discussed.
we can bring it up at our board meeting too, when we say that I encouraged everybody to give me ideas on what they think.
So the June meeting, we will have the draft of the cyber.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So if we can read that
Mhm.
for review and have any comments back to Jennifer, that would be helpful in preparation for the meeting to go over,
Mhm.
as well as I know you've all been really wanting to read the mitigation plan. But if you could at least do a quick overview of it,
Mhm.
of our current 2017.
I did that.
And then so that you also have an idea of what we're looking at for this update
Yeah.
with these new sections as well. Or if you see anything glaring or ask questions about the
Yeah.
current plan, that would be really helpful to have as
I have
well.
nothing
We
to
can
say
review
but
that.
kudos about it because it's so in-depth and so informative. I just kept reading. I couldn't stop just reading and reading, and it was very well put together.
Yeah.
That took a long time.
Yeah,
It
that
did.
is painful. Yeah.
Very
You
interesting. but-
birthed it.
But likewise, if there's anything that's confusing or hard to understand, like I know for some, how that risk is calculated is confusing.
Not bad.
If there's ways that, you see, hey, that's really confusing. I'm not sure if you share this with people that most will understand because it's complicated. We want to know that, and whether it's that risk rating or whatever in the plan too, that might be, need to be revisited for clarity.
And this-
That
I
would
think a lot of
be
times
for you,
the
I'd like to
language
hear
of the
what
way
your
things are
thoughts
put
are
together
and
can
how,
sometimes be like, oh, my
for the
brain is
projects
going,
that
what?
Yeah, yeah.
that would be more
And I-
beneficial
yeah.
for you.
I'm like, it's math. I'm like,
Um,
last time I had to do this kind of
and
math,
If
it's
there's
been a
anything
while.
that you
Right. So I was like,
want to see
gave
if
myself
we
a
can
brief refresher
incorporate,
on how to math
that would
appropriately
be-
and
that would be
um,
for
yeah, so
project
the
ideas,
different factors that go
that
into
way
that risk
it's
calculation are,
actually
they're really
solidified in
interesting,
there,
but certainly
for
if
any
people felt
mitigation
that,
projects. I
because
know
they're
that you
weighted
work with the
differently
county
based
and
on
put
like
those
the
submitted
lives that we're
those
trying to
for
save,
that.
the environment,
But
they're
if
all
there's
weighted
anything
differently,
else that
with
didn't-
human life being.
that you
the
want to
number
see,
Number one, yeah.
we
number
can
one.
put it,
Okay.
that way you can just
But,
submit
in
for
feedback on that
ours,
as
for
well.
the
If people are like,
review.
yeah, I don't know if we need to be saving so
When you
many
go in
lives,
for
we really
asking
need
for
to
mitigation
protect property. Which
Yeah, I know.
obviously they, I
I
hope
would-
they wouldn't do.
Yeah.
But
Save my beach.
yes,
Yeah.
I won't be here, but the beach will. so,
Yeah.
Because I wanted to
But
be a
input for all of
usable,
that is
workable document for
extremely
you
helpful. So any
and for
questions or
us to
confusion
to push
that
for those mitigations.
anybody has,
Yeah.
I'd appreciate that so that, I can help provide
Mhm.
additional points of clarity going forward.
Shay.
All right. Thank you, Rick and Glenn, for being our silent partners today. We will have the camera situation working a little bit easier for next time as
Yeah,
well.
we do have a large camera for the room.
Yeah,
So we'll have to,
there's no
or
instructions
we'll
on the wall for
update
that
it,
one.
we'll fix our IT.
Yes. But welcome any input or feedback in the meantime. And I look forward to working with everybody further. Thank you so much for coming. I
Thank you
really
for inviting
appreciate it.
us. Yeah.
Thank you.
You.
All right.
Thanks
you.
for putting it on.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
And I should let you know, I'm an alternate, so there's another gal that might be here next month.